What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. Let's dive into our first news. Daniel Cormier has shared new details about Magomed Ankalaev's injury that he carried into his rematch against Alex Pereira at UFC 320. Just hours after the event, Ankalaev's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, revealed that the now former light heavyweight champion had entered the fight nursing a rib injury. Soon after, a video surfaced online showing Ankalaev receiving injections in his ribs just weeks before the event, sparking a wave of debate across social media. Some fans questioned whether the injury was real, while others believed it may have occurred mid-fight after Pereira landed several brutal elbows to his ribs on the ground. However, Daniel Cormier has now confirmed that the injury was absolutely legitimate. In a video posted on his YouTube channel, DC said that Magomed was indeed dealing with a rib issue before the fight, and that it was far from an excuse. Cormier explained that he personally saw footage of Ankalaev receiving treatment injections to help him manage the pain and stay active in training. He said that for nearly 6 weeks leading up to the fight, Ankalaev could only hit pads and do limited cardio because of the injury. Despite that, he decided to move forward and compete, refusing to pull out of one of the biggest fights of his career. DC revealed that some of Ankalaev's closest people actually advised him not to fight, knowing how serious the injury was. But Magomed insisted on going through with it, driven by the desire to beat Pereira again and solidify his place at the top of the division. According to Cormier, Ankalaev understood the importance of securing a second win over Alex, which would have made a huge statement about his dominance. Cormier added that even though Ankalaev wasn't at 100%, it's unclear if the result would have changed. He admitted that Pereira fought with such precision and power that it might not have mattered whether Ankalaev was injured or fully healthy. Still, DC praised Magomed's toughness, saying it takes real courage to step into the octagon under those conditions, especially against a dangerous striker like Alex Pereira. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to help support the channel. Moving on to another news, Sean Strickland has shared his thoughts on a potential super fight between Alex Pereira and Jon Jones. In a recent interview with MMA Junkie, Strickland said that if there's anyone capable of beating Jon Jones, it might just be Alex. He acknowledged that Jones is an incredible athlete with world-class wrestling, calling him a special kind of fighter with unmatched physicality and skill. Strickland noted that Jones's wrestling has always been one of his biggest weapons, but he also pointed out that Alex is one of the hardest guys in the sport to take down. According to Strickland, Pereira naturally fights in a defensive stance that makes it extremely difficult for opponents to drag him to the mat. He explained that if anyone wants to have success against Alex, they'd have to exhaust him first, because when he's fresh, his balance, strength, and timing make him nearly impossible to control. Strickland described Alex as a once-in-a-lifetime kind of striker, someone with that rare death punch that only a few fighters in history have possessed. He compared him to Chuck Liddell, saying both men share that unique ability to end a fight instantly with one clean shot. Strickland also mentioned how much he enjoys working with Alex in training. He said that Alex is incredibly focused and coachable, the type of fighter who absorbs advice instantly and then drills it until it becomes second nature. He praised his work ethic, saying it's one of the reasons why Alex continues to evolve and succeed across multiple divisions. When talking about Magomed Ankalaev, Strickland made it clear that he has a lot of respect for him as well. He called Ankalaev one of the most technically skilled fighters in the world, saying that if Ankalaev were to write a book on MMA, it would be a massive one filled with knowledge and detail. But Strickland added that Alex has something extra, a secret sauce that separates him from everyone else. That rare combination of composure, timing, and raw power is what makes Strickland believe Alex Pereira could truly challenge Jon Jones. Moving on to another news, during the UFC Rio media workout, Mateusz Gamrot was greeted by the infamous Brazilian chant, vai morrer, which translates to, "You're going to die." It's a traditional chant often shouted by passionate Brazilian fans toward foreign fighters who are about to face one of their own. Gamrot, who is set to fight Charles Oliveira this weekend, didn't seem rattled at all by the intense atmosphere. Instead, he handled it with complete composure and even smiled as the crowd erupted around him. The Polish lightweight appeared relaxed and focused, taking in the moment and showing respect to the local fans. Despite the heat and noise in the arena, Gamrot's calm reaction showed his confidence heading into one of the biggest fights of his career, right in the heart of enemy territory at UFC Rio. Moving on to another news, Gilbert Burns has made his prediction for the upcoming UFC Rio event, where Charles Oliveira is set to face Mateusz Gamrot. Burns believes that Charles will not only win, but will finish Gamrot inside the distance. Speaking confidently about the matchup, Burns explained that he doesn't see many ways for Gamrot to win, especially when it comes to striking. According to Burns, both he and Renato Moicano believe Gamrot has little to no chance of outstriking Oliveira, who remains one of the most dangerous finishers in the lightweight division. Burns said that while it's possible for the fight to go to a decision, he highly doubts it. In his opinion, Charles is too skilled, too aggressive, and too efficient to let it go the distance. He believes the easiest path to victory for Oliveira is to defend Gamrot's takedown attempts, keep the fight standing, and use his striking to wear him down. Burns compared the strategy to how Beneil Dariush handled Gamrot, but added that Charles brings even more power in his hands and far superior jiu-jitsu. He described Oliveira as a complete finisher who can end the fight in multiple ways, whether on the feet or on the ground. Burns went on to explain that if Oliveira hurts Gamrot in a striking exchange, he can easily follow up with ground and pound or transition into a submission. He even joked that Charles might jump on the ghillie, referring to Oliveira's trademark guillotine choke, which has ended many of his past fights. Burns emphasized that Oliveira's killer instinct is unmatched, and once he senses weakness, he goes for the finish without hesitation. When the discussion turned to whether Gamrot has any chance of knocking Charles out, Burns laughed and completely dismissed the idea. He said there's no way that happens, repeating it several times with confidence. His co-host teased him, saying it could be possible, but Burns doubled down, saying he would call Charles himself to tell him someone doubted him. The exchange ended on a light-hearted note, but Burns' message was clear. He expects Oliveira to dominate and finish Gamrot, proving once again why he's one of the most dangerous fighters in the division. Moving on to another news, Petr Yan has spoken out about his first fight against Merab and made a surprising revelation. During his recent appearance on the Ariel Helwani show, Yan said he was only operating at 50% when he faced Merab back in 2023. The two fought in what turned out to be a dominant performance for Merab, who won the fight by unanimous decision. However, Yan insists that things would play out very differently if they met again. Yan explained that he was far from his best physically during that fight. He mentioned that he was dealing with some issues in camp that limited his performance inside the octagon. Despite that, he gave credit to Merab for his relentless pressure and work rate, acknowledging that Merab deserved the win that night. But Yan made it clear that a rematch would be a completely different story. He said he's been back in full training, feels stronger than ever, and wants to prove that the first fight didn't show the real version of him. Merab recently expressed interest in facing Yan again at UFC 323 in December, saying he wants to stay active and continue building his momentum. The event is scheduled for December 7th, and Yan responded by saying he's absolutely ready to return before the end of the year. He also revealed that one of his goals is to break the record for most title defenses in a single calendar year, a record currently shared by 8 other fighters who have achieved 3 defenses. Yan said he wants to reach 4 by December, making history in the process. When asked if fighting again in just 2 months would be realistic, Yan sounded confident and optimistic. He stated that as long as there are no injuries and everything aligns with the UFC's plans, he's ready to go. He emphasized that he's been waiting for this opportunity and wants to settle unfinished business with Merab. Yan promised that this time, fans would see a much sharper and more dangerous version of him. He believes the rematch would deliver an incredible fight, filled with high energy and emotion, and that it would show just how much both men have evolved since their first encounter. Moving on to another news, former bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw has shared his thoughts on a potential rematch between Merab and Umar. TJ explained that he really wants to see Merab face Umar again, especially after their first fight earlier this year, where Merab won by unanimous decision. Dillashaw believes Umar brought something different to the table in that matchup, particularly with his willingness to wrestle and shoot for takedowns, unlike many others who hesitate to challenge Merab in that area. TJ said that's exactly why he's so interested in seeing the rematch. He feels someone needs to take Merab down and keep him there, just to find out how good Merab's bottom game truly is. Dillashaw mentioned that a lot of fighters make the mistake of not shooting on Merab, thinking they can just defend his pressure. But Umar actually tried to take the fight to him in the grappling exchanges. TJ also pointed out how unusual it is for a fighter with such a heavy wrestling and grappling style to still be entertaining to watch. Normally, those kinds of fights tend to bore fans, but Merab manages to keep the energy high and make every exchange exciting. Dillashaw praised Merab for his constant pace, saying he never stalls or slows down, even when he's controlling the fight through relentless takedowns. He emphasized that Merab fights hard from start to finish and always pushes the action, which makes his performances stand out. According to TJ, that intensity and consistency are what make Merab one of the most exciting grapplers in the UFC right now, and a rematch with Umar would be a real test to see just how much both fighters have evolved since their first encounter. Moving on to another news, Charles Oliveira has expressed his desire to take part in a massive super fight, and this time, his sights are set on Conor. Speaking at the UFC Rio Media Day ahead of his upcoming bout this weekend, the former lightweight champion revealed that he wants to be part of the highly anticipated fight card, rumored to coincide with Donald Trump's birthday, which many expect to be held at the White House. Oliveira said he's ready for a big moment and believes a clash with Conor would be the perfect opportunity to deliver something truly special for the fans. Known for always being open to exciting matchups, Oliveira didn't hesitate to call out one of the sport's biggest stars. He called Conor the golden goose of combat sports, acknowledging the global attention such a fight would bring. Despite having a tough assignment ahead of him this weekend, Oliveira made it clear that his long-term goal is to face Conor on one of the grandest stages in UFC history. He said he's ready to step up, make a statement, and give fans a fight they'll never forget. For Oliveira, it's not just about the fame or the money, it's about the legacy. He's already proven himself as one of the most dangerous finishers in UFC history, and now he wants to add another legendary name to his resume. A showdown between Charles Oliveira and Conor at the White House would undoubtedly be one of the biggest events the sport has ever seen. Moving on to another news, boxing promoter Eddie Hearn didn't hold back when he took aim at Dana White and the UFC, calling out what he sees as a major problem with how the organization pays its fighters. During a recent appearance on the Ariel Helwani show, Hearn went in hard on the UFC's fighter pay structure and profit split, arguing that if the revenue share were even remotely fair, UFC athletes would be earning 5 to 6 times more than they currently do. Hearn explained that in boxing, fighters at the top level have real negotiating power because they are the product, the attraction that fills arenas and sells pay-per-views. He said, "Hang on a minute, how much money is in the pot? You kind of need me, don't you? Without me, do you even have a show?" He emphasized that when a fighter brings in hundreds of thousands of pay-per-view buys and sells out venues, they deserve a fair share of the profits. Drawing a comparison, Hearn mentioned how fighters like Anthony Joshua have full control of their events. You imagine if a UFC star was told, "It's your show, open book, you take 80% of the profit, we take 20%, he said. Those guys would be making 5, 6, 7 times more than they are now. Hearn admitted that his comments might not make him the most popular person with Dana White or within the MMA community, but he insisted that he was simply telling the truth. He criticized how most UFC fighters compete without any real understanding of how much total revenue their events generate. "These guys don't even know what's in the pot," he said. "They're fighting blindly while the company takes the lion's share." Still, he acknowledged that from a business standpoint, the UFC model works because it allows the promotion to control costs and maximize profits. It's their business. They can do what they want, he added. If they can get away with that model, good luck to them. But Hearn didn't shy away from calling it out as unfair, especially when fighters in the Contender Series or on smaller contracts are making what he called peanuts. He pointed out that some fighters are competing for as little as $50,000 if they win, and maybe $100,000 or $200,000 at best, while the events themselves generate millions in broadcast and rights fees. He concluded by saying that when networks like Paramount pay multi-million-dollar fees per show, the profit margins are unbelievable, yet the athletes, the ones putting their health and careers on the line, see only a fraction of it. It was a sharp critique from Hearn, reinforcing his stance that the fight business, especially at the UFC level, needs far more transparency and fairness for the athletes who make it all possible. Moving on to another news, Carlos Ulberg wasn't too thrilled with how Jiri Prochazka behaved after the main event of UFC 320. The light heavyweight contender, who recently scored a huge knockout win over Dominic Reyes in Perth, shared his thoughts on Prochazka's actions while attending the Alex Pereira vs. Magomed Ankalaev 2 fight in Las Vegas. Jiri's emotional reaction to Pereira's knockout went viral, but it wasn't just his post-fight behavior that caught Ulberg's attention. Speaking on the Ariel Helwani show, Ulberg explained that he found some of Jiri's actions a bit strange and distracting. He said Jiri walked in after his fight, as he should, since he had just earned a big win. But what threw Ulberg off was how Jiri positioned himself near the cage. According to Ulberg, Jiri stood right in front of a lot of people, blocking their view as the main event fighters were making their walkouts. Ulberg said it was awkward, as everyone was there to watch the fighters make their entrance, but Jiri seemed to draw attention to himself instead. Ulberg added that he didn't have any personal issue with Jiri, but he felt it was important to let the main event fighters have their moment. He explained that when two athletes are about to walk out for such a massive fight, they need focus and energy around them, not distractions. Ulberg said, "Let the boys do their thing, sit back, and let them prepare for battle." He emphasized that the moment belongs to those stepping into the cage, and everyone else should respect that. He also mentioned that while he understands Jiri's eccentric and emotional nature, some of his behavior seemed unnecessary. Jiri is known for being a bit unpredictable, with his wild energy and unique personality, but Ulberg believes there's a time and place for that. During the walkouts, however, Ulberg thought it was better to give the fighters space and not make it about yourself. Despite the criticism, Ulberg didn't sound angry or disrespectful. He simply stated his perspective. He acknowledged that Jiri is his own person and does things his own way, saying, "That's his go, that's his take, so it's all good." Still, his comments clearly reflected some frustration about how the situation played out that night. Ulberg's remarks come as he continues to build momentum in the light heavyweight division, positioning himself for a potential title shot. With performances like his recent knockout win, and with his growing confidence, it's clear that Carlos Ulberg wants not only respect inside the octagon, but also a sense of order and professionalism around it. That's it from MMA Pulse News. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for daily MMA news.